So today we are doing our webinar a little differently than we have in the past. We're going to do it as more of an interview and interviewee style. So welcome to our 5th webinar of the Homeowner's Guide to a Local Remodel series. Today we have Rhonda Sioka out of our South Dennis location with us. She has been with Mid-Cape for 8 years. She is going to be your interviewer today, and I am going to turn it over to her.
Thank you very much, Fallon. Welcome. As Fallon did say, this is our 5th webinar that we've hosted. We started doing these virtual meetings and webinars to kind of keep people busy and let them know that with everything going on, we were still able to start our projects. I know that everyone's been home right now and looking around their house and seeing what they would like to improve. So with that, I'm the product manager located in South Dennis. We have a flooring specialist in South Dennis. We also have 2 flooring specialists in Orleans, and one of them here is Holly Moore. Holly, if you want to just tell a little bit about yourself before we go on to our agenda.
Sure. I've been in the design business for probably 40 years, but originally went to Rhode Island School of Design for interior design, started out selling high-end furniture and got interested in flooring and took the job here at Mid-Cape Home Centers 17 years ago, specifically with flooring. And of course, over the course of the years, things have changed and improved, and I've been exposed to many things, and we are, I'd say, on the cutting edge of flooring design, both products, knowledge. We have installers. It's, it's a passion of ours, really.
Right, good. So I know just like any type of project that you do at home, sometimes things get overwhelming. So we're here to kind of walk you through that process from, different products that we use, just the availability of style and color. So I guess we will start with the behind the scenes, and if we can flip to the next slide. So Holly, I'm going to let you speak to this. I know that obviously when you're working with tile and anytime you're around water, especially in the bathroom or the kitchen, it's important to have products that will waterproof and obviously keep water away from the areas that it's not supposed to be. So if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Sure. Well, regardless of the application, waterproofing and a proper substrate for your tile installation is required to end up with a happy installation, because a tile job, most floor jobs actually, can last a lifetime if they're done properly in the first place. So we have access to a number of waterproofing products and substrates, and pretty much all of our vendors have them. So we get relatively quick turnaround times. And some of the recommended ones are the Schluter system. There is the Ardex 8+9 system. There's Hydroban. And those are the ones that we're familiar with and generally use, though there are others. But the key to the whole process is to do the waterproofing.
So basically the tile installer would come in and lay the substrate and make sure that everything is waterproof before they start laying the tile.
Correct. And some of the installers use our products, but homeowners, we are open to selling product without the install. Some of the contractors, though, they're really busy overall and may have subcontractors that do their work. you know, everybody has their preferences of materials, but
Mhm.
we've got a pretty broad spectrum of product that we offer, and generally we can make everybody happy. Anything that we don't have, we can always research for people and, you know, go over the pros and cons or whatever the person really doing the job prefers.
Okay. I know that typically, you know, going back a few years, I think installers were using a cement board. I think
Yep.
a lot of people know it as door rock. Are we getting, or is the industry getting away from that type of application? Does this Schluter system, is it more lightweight, easy to install? The workability, does that become a little bit easier for the installer?
Well, yeah, that's primarily it. You know, the Durock old stayed and true, but it is a cement board that can crumble when you cut it. It's heavier to install, and this, that, and the other thing. We do have Durock. We've got Hardybacker. We've got something called Go Board, which is a lightweight, water-resistant product. We've got Purdy board. We've got Multiply. On the floors, you might want to start with some CDX plywood and for stability factor, and then go over it maybe with Multiply. And then Fluter has something called Ditra, which is a fracture membrane, because people are using a lot of larger tiles, and movement in the floor is different. Wood moves differently than tile moves. So there's a possibility of cracking if you've got a large format tile that you don't use some kind of a fracture membrane substrate. But we have all of that material and all the information on it, and people have been very happy with it.
Good. And at what time would, say someone was remodeling and you know, tore down the bathroom down to the studs,
Yeah.
and they have a contractor doing that, at what point does the contractor call the tile person in? Would it be a contractor putting in this type of substrate, or is that the tiler that would handle that?
It can definitely vary. Some of the contractors like to do it themselves. Some of them have their subcontractor, the tile installers, do it. I recommend that I would rather hold on to product for a week rather than be a week late getting stuff
Mhm.
as things progress. And, you know, that's just as a courtesy to the contractors, primarily, just not holding them up on a job. But a lot of the contractors will be the initial person that goes out and measures and sees what they want to use and do. And then
Mhm.
either they'll have their tile installer confirm everything, or our tile installer will go out and confirm things. And we put a quote together to get everyone's approval before we take a deposit or place orders or any of that kind of thing. But generally it goes very smoothly.
Okay, great. Anything else to touch on Schluter or the substrates?
I think this substrate, the only thing I would say about the substrates is in a floor application, particularly with tile, but even with wood floors, you need about 1.25 inches of substrate for stability factor. And
Okay.
you know, some of our cottages are a little older, and you know, it may mean that you have to cut the doors down, take off the baseboard. There are a lot of little details related to it, which is why it's nice to have a contractor if you're not really familiar with what is going on.
So if someone wasn't going to use that type of system and they were replacing just the tile on a basic plywood floor, is tile, you can do that
You
type
can
of
put tile,
application?
yeah.
Yes.
You can put that over plywood. You, generally speaking, the Multiply is a 4-foot by 4-foot piece, as opposed to a 4x8 or a 3x5 like Hardybacker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier to handle. It's also 1/4 inch thick. So depending on what you have down for plywood, you know, somebody might have 3/4 inch plywood with 1/2 inch on top of it, and that would get them up to their 1 1/4 inches of substrate. If not, they can put 1/4 inch of multi-ply down over the top of it, and that would come up to the thickness needed.
Okay. So I see some photos here of different showers. Are people nowadays, do you find that, you know, we're going more towards trendy? Do you find that people are looking more for a classic look that won't go out of style? Are you seeing any different trends in either of those?
Well, I would say that the majority of, which is kind of a blanket statement, but I would say the majority of the people that come down here, it's their second home, out in Orleans at least,
Mhm.
and they are kind of, you know, their homes at home are traditional, and they're willing to do something a little bit crazy, like colors or doing a herringbone installation, or you know, again, I hate to keep going to Schluter, but that is one of our best resources. They make a linear drain, so you can use a large format tile on the shower floor rather than needing the tile to be mosaic 3x3, so that you can angle it down to the little drain in the center of the floor. So, you know, people can do their bathroom floor right over the curb into the shower floor, up the shower walls, all in a 12x24 tile. And that is very, very sophisticated looking when you get it done. It's spa-like, you know?
So it seems like some of the trends are leaning towards larger tiles, which creates less grout, which creates less cleaning, and that
Yes.
makes it a little easier for the homeowner.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, it's a material that's pretty indestructible. So even for people that are renting their cottages and one thing or another, it's not really a problem at all
Mhm.
having the tile. I guess they say in real estate that for resale value, every house needs to have a tub,
Mhm.
but every bathroom doesn't need to have a tub. So usually
Right.
the master bathroom is a nice big walk-in shower with glass doors and, you know, all kinds of fancy stuff going on. And those come out beautifully.
Now, speaking of the glass doors, and I know there are a few of them here in the photos, that would be any glass company to come in. However, does the tile prep, do you have to have a special size of the door jamb? Do you have to create an actual door jamb for the doors to attach?
Well, there are standard sizes of everything. The wall tile is no problem. Um, a lot of times I'll use things like Jolly. The tile companies are getting, starting from Italy and on over here, to something called a Jolly, as opposed to the old traditional bullnoses that used to be available. And
Mhm.
Jollies are usually a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch quarter round. And so you don't want to have to screw the hinges or whatever for a glass door into that. You've got to recess it a little bit. But
Mhm.
if you've got a threshold going into the shower, it's usually about 6 inches deep, and you put a shower jamb, a piece of marble shower jamb on top of that, and you can set the doors right on top of that.
Okay. Have you come into anything where a customer is looking to match the door jamb to the granite or quartz that they're using for their vanity top?
Yeah, a lot of times. And I actually even recommend it because I think it simplifies things.
Mhm.
And we can get that through the kitchen and bath people have access to that kind of thing, and they can make custom shower jams, door thresholds that match the countertop. And if you've got, for example, like this middle picture here, um, the half wall, the top of that, the front of that, and around the corner can all match the countertop, which is very nice.
Mhm. So basically, when someone is redoing their whole bathroom, their vanity and their countertop, they may come, being that we have a kitchen and bath showroom as well as our flooring department, they kind of work hand in hand, or you work hand in hand with our kitchen designers, and everything kind of comes into play and meshes together, correct?
Yes, definitely. And I mean, people are not afraid to spend the required amount of money to get what they want, but it needs to be, it's custom, totally custom what we do. And, we go step by step and make sure that we cover all the bases, the
Right.
substrate, the waterproofing, the tile, the countertop, the, installation, the grouts, everything it's a project. It's a custom project, but,
Right.
we communicate among ourselves.
And following, having the timelines, knowing when your contractor is stopping his project, when the tile person comes in, making sure that, you're on board, or the kitchen designer, whoever's going to be involved in the project, making sure that if you are going to do a door jamb with the quartz, that those products are coming in on a timely manner, and that all the projects have a timeline. So
Yeah,
you
and
don't hold the project up.
you're right, exactly. And I'm thinking that when they're doing a countertop, especially if it's a custom size, not one of the stock ones,
Mm-hmm.
you would cut the shower jamb and the threshold and all of the additional pieces that are going to match that countertop from the same piece.
Right.
So everything matches. So that's,
Okay.
not a problem.
Good.
Generally, our vendors stock everything that we specify.
Okay.
Or if they don't, it might be a 2-week lead time. But we've got enough time with the contractors and the customers that we can custom order, and it fits into
Right.
the time frame, doesn't hold things up or any of that.
Okay. Very good. Backsplashes, the fun one for a lot of people when they're redoing their kitchen.
Oh yes.
So, and speaking of the trends and classic styles and what people are looking for today, I know that a lot of people probably come to you with a photo that they found on Pinterest or House. Something can change as simple as a regular white subway tile. You can change the whole look just by adding a lighter gray grout versus a white grout, or even black.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak
And
a little
that's
bit more
really
to that?
popular, actually. They do that a lot on HGTV. Not that I swear by everybody on HGTV, but they do have some good ideas, and it gives you an opportunity to see something from start to finish rather
Mhm.
than having to imagine it if it's not your forte per se.
Right. Now, Holly, are you finding, I think, as trends change, just different ways of, installing your applications and things with countertops change too. I think that if you're looking, say 15, 20 years ago, everyone was using a backsplash from the actual counter.
Yeah.
Whatever granite countertop or quartz they were using, they would just create the backsplash. Some of
Yeah,
these
that's a
photos,
nice contemporary look, It's still, people do it.
yeah, I just see most of the photos here are showing just the tile backsplash. Are you seeing that
Yeah.
more trend now? Are people leaning more towards that? Is there a reason? Does it help with cleaning, keeping bacteria away?
I think it might have a little bit to do with the cost, because the backsplash is probably the same price as the countertop when you're doing granite or
Quartz.
although I haven't quoted those, so I'm not sure of that, but
Mhm.
that seems to be the feeling from the husbands. The wives love the stuff, but sometimes you have to cook your husband a nice little dinner. Get what you want.
Even though it's only probably what, half an inch or 3/4 of an inch. If you have a small space, not having that extra backsplash kind of gives you a little bit more workability on your countertop.
Yeah, I personally recommend against doing the countertop backsplash, even the 4-inch, 5-inch, whatever, because you've only got 18 inches to play with. So if you're using any kind of a tile that's a larger size tile, you need to, if it's got a pattern, it needs to be able to repeat enough times that it doesn't look like an afterthought.
Right.
And of course, the grout companies all make a
Good. Very good. Any other trends you're seeing with the certain size of the backsplash tile?
Well, everybody loves the glass tiles. At one time, 1-inch by 1-inch or 1-inch by 3-inch was popular. People are kind of tending away from that lately, but we have resources for, 4x8 glass, 2x8 glass, and multiple colors. Like if you're familiar with Tommy Bahama, that stuff is just gorgeous. And people are liking that. They're also, through Dal Tile, I've got a beautiful program of, it basically comes out being a mural. And I've got 4 samples of those in the showroom for people to look at. And I just had a girl do a 24-inch by 24-inch one on her shower wall. I can't wait to see that. And, being that I've done this for so long and we've seen a lot of this stuff for a while. So sometimes I'm looking for something a little bit different. Although I have to admit, I don't totally go crazy in my own house. I do sort of go traditional in my house. It just might be a larger scale or a porcelain tile that can look like natural stone, so you don't have the problem of sealing it. On this backsplash film or whatever, the upper right-hand corner is a Stone Impressions tile, and they just I've got a 200-page catalog of patterns that you can get through them to do a backsplash. And I'll tell you, when you see it in person, I've sold a couple of jobs from it that I never thought would buy it. And they're like, oh yeah, we have to have that. Yes, you do.
So I know a lot of the trends now too are in countertops. A lot of the quartz mimic true marble, which is a very light, very classic, clean look. Do you find that people are trying to get their color from the backsplash rather than, it's easier to change out something a little bit easier, a smaller area than it is to replace your whole countertop?
Oh God,
So
yeah.
do you find that people are getting the color in their backsplash and that's how they're looking to create that different look?
A lot of times people will go with something fun, which is multiple colors, like the middle photo there. But generally speaking, it's the Carrera that a lot of people are using for the countertops. And some have more gray veining than others, but a pale gray 2x8 tile is gorgeous with that. It's really timeless.
Right. And so the backsplash would come in, obviously installed after the countertop is
After the counter, yeah.
Place.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. On to flooring.
Now we go to flooring. Yes.
And so I know that as far as a bathroom, typically you want to add or install tile. I know that some people are putting in the LVT. Can you
Yeah.
speak to the differences and what might be a benefit of either one in a bathroom?
I would say in a bathroom, the options are sheet vinyl, which people are going back to because the patterns are ending up being really hip and new. They're doing the LVT, which is a locking vinyl floor, the ones that we have, with the cork pad, if you want to say, attached to the back. That's totally waterproof. They lock together. It's considered a floating floor. But as I've told people, and they kind of give me this look like, should I laugh or not? If it weren't for gravity, I'd probably weigh 105 pounds. But that gravity is what is going to keep your quote unquote floating floor on the floor. You know, that's not literally a float. It means that it's not attached to the subfloor. But then the other option, of course, is tile. And that's where the Schluter Ditra and Ditra XL comes in, because with the larger format tiles, you want to make sure that your substrate is not only 1.25 inches thick, but the Ditra, as I say, is a fracture membrane that keeps the movement from the wood substrate and the tile on top kind of separate, so it doesn't move around and the tiles don't crack, which they've
Right.
done in the past.
Now, I know that a lot of the flooring tiles are elongated now. People are going more for that larger tile, rectangular look.
Yeah.
Is it easier for a tile installer, or is it a little bit more difficult because of the leveling of the floor?
Yeah, that it's called lippage, and in a longer tile, you have to make sure that they are offset. You know, a rectangular tile, referring back to a subway tile, is laid at 50% increments, whereas these longer tiles that are 24, 36, 48 inches long need to be installed at 1/3 increments, because the natural tendency for something that large to bend a little bit creates something called lippage, where the tile's a little bit higher than the one next to it. And I mean, I don't know. I guess it could be a trip hazard if you're just scuffling along in the bathroom. But
They
preferably,
create,
you don't have.
isn't there a leveling system that they have so that if your floor is uneven, I know that a tile that's, 16 inches long has less of a give than if you're gonna grout 2 3x3 tiles, say.
Right. We've got Ardex Feather Finish, which we stock, and that is generally to just flatten out a subfloor of anything that you're putting on top of it. There are also Multiply has a product, and a lot of the installers are getting into it. It's a system that you put the one piece down underneath the tile, and it's got a piece that sticks up above the tile, and you can level out the tile by turning the knob on the leveling piece, and then you just break it off. I mean, the bottom part stays under the tile, and you break the top part off. And that is one way to keep the floors nice and flat.
Very good. So let's talk about wood, solid wood versus engineered wood.
I mean,
And is there any benefit? Obviously, we here are in a coastal community. We're surrounded by water, and the moisture issues become difficult at times. Can you speak to either one of those and maybe tell us the benefit?
well, of course, the New England favorite has always been wood floors. They've been around since the beginning of time, since people started clearing their property to build their little cabins. And some of those floors are still there. Over the course of time, the the manufacturers have gotten a little more sophisticated about the products and how it's handled and finished and kiln dried and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Solid wood floors are less expensive than engineered wood floors. We here do not recommend going over a 4-inch wide solid floor for the exact reason that you're talking about. The humidity in the air can cause the floors to swell up or shrink. It's called cupping and crowning. But if you've ever walked across a floor that's got a curled up edge, that's what happened. And the engineered floors are made in 3 to 5 layers of kiln dried plywood that are offset, and the wear layer on top is finished the same as a 3/4 inch solid floor. And when you've got them installed, you just absolutely cannot tell that it's engineered or solid. It's just with the technology and the amount of handling that it takes to make an engineered floor, they're a little bit more expensive.
Okay. But it is true solid hardwood on the top.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And it's constructed of solid. It's probably Russian birch that they use for the substrate, and that's pretty. Any wood that grows, any trees or wood that grows in a latitude where you get freezing temperatures in the winter and they stop growing, makes for a much harder product. You could get a maple that comes from Florida and they would call it maple, but we would call it swamp maple up here because it's as soft as pine.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have that period of the winter when it stops growing and gets its act together and gets ready to start growing again in the spring. And that's where the rings and textures come from in the wood floors.
Right. Now, what about pre-finished flooring versus unfinished? If someone was redoing a room, they wanted to just tear up what they had, but they didn't want it. They currently have a hardwood, and it would need to be sanded and refinished, which would obviously entail a lot of dust, a lot of moving furniture. Is this where the pre-finished really comes into play and is a good choice for a lot of homeowners?
Yeah, a lot of times we get into unfinished floors when people don't like the micro bevel that is on the sides of all the pre-finished floors. The unfinished floor gets put down, sanded, stained, and it can match the floor in an adjacent room. If you're just doing, say you're doing a bedroom off the hall and you want the floors to match, but you can't remember where it came from, or maybe it was finished on the job site or whatever, and you have to match it. In that case, you would probably get an unfinished floor and put it in. It won't have the micro bevel on the edge. They'll be square edged, and it'll match your existing floor. The pre-finished floors have 30 to 35 year warranties on the finishes on the floors. And the micro beveled edge is not super obvious once you've got it installed, but I feel kind of like, especially down here with the sand kind of falls off the floor into the groove and you vacuum it up and it's not scratching the surface of the floor. But and it's got all matching. The pre-finished floors have all kinds of matching trim pieces and this, that, and the other thing. And it's less messy, as you say, to install. You're not sanding with, even if you've got a vacuum on your sander, go into your lingerie drawer after you've had your floors done and see how much dust needs to be vacuumed out.
So how about a wood application in a kitchen? I know that there's always been the argument that you know, tiles should be in a kitchen where there's a lot of water and there could be water damage, but then you see some older homes and, like you say, the trends of people just wanting that nice, natural, warm feeling of wood. Is it okay to install hardwood in your kitchen?
You know, we do a lot of hardwood floors in kitchens because the architectural style, when people are remodeling, sometimes they're taking down walls and they've got an open floor plan and they want all the floors to be the same. And, you know, as a homeowner myself, if I'm going to work for the money that I spend to do a project, I'm going to take care of it. So, you know, the moisture in a kitchen, yes, that's a possibility, but if you spilled a cup of water on the floor, you would wipe it up. So it wouldn't really become a problem for a wood floor. They're also not as hard and cold underfoot, and that's where, you know, radiant heat comes in for a tile floor, but it can also be used under an engineered wood floor if you want to use radiant heat. But the tiles, the only objection I ever really hear from people is how hard it is. When you're standing in front of the sink on a tile floor, eventually it hurts your back. If you drop something on a tile floor, it's more likely to break if it's breakable.
Right. So that is an option for anyone going back to a bathroom if they're looking to install tile in the bathroom, but they don't want it to be too cold in the winter. There are systems that you can do radiant heat, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. And they go right down over the subfloor material. The old original radiant heat in, you know, some of the old Victorian homes was put in, and it's a hot water system into the concrete subfloor. That is a little bit of a different scenario. This radiant heat right now that I'm talking about is an electric floor. I guess you could call it a mat almost, that heats up. It's not made to heat the room, it's made to heat the floor. And of course, hot air rises, so it's warmer than not having it, but it's not a heating system in lieu of, you know, a radiator or something.
Right. Very good. We also have a lot of choices for the wide plank flooring, correct?
Oh yeah, yes. And generally speaking, that's engineered what we have.
Okay. All right, we can flip to the next, sorry.
Perfect, yeah.
Specialty applications. So these are some photos of items that become or have become very popular, especially here on a, you know, in a coastal community. Everyone always wants to feel like they're near the beach. You can see some nice inlays here of Cape Cod, the map. And Holly, we have options and we have availability to all of this. These
Yes.
great items, correct?
We have two artists that we work with, and get off screen for 1 second. And they can be totally custom made. And I mean, it's just beautiful.
So you can basically take a photo of anything, really,
Yep.
and have them transfer it onto the tile.
Yep. And, you know, if you want a tile, even a mural, like on the right-hand side there of your neighborhood or the little, you know, inlet that you live on, no problem. She can totally do it. And we do sailboats and seashells and, you know, pretty much anything nautical, lighthouses, all that kind of stuff. So totally custom. And these
Everything.
girls have portfolios that you can look through and choose, you know, what it is that you're thinking of, or as you say, photographs that you have that they can make.
Right. And size obviously is just depending on what you know, there's no limit as small or large as you want the mural.
Correct. I like it to be relative, if it's going over the stove like this, these guys are, I
Mhm.
like it to be relative to the size of the stove. And when you're putting in something like a mural like this, I like to use either a half round or a chair rail as almost a frame,
Mhm.
kind of sets it aside as what it is, a piece of artwork.
Right. Now, what about inlaying actual pieces of tile? I know that some companies offer tiles that look like seashells or fish or anything like that. I think in here, I don't know if that's if it is an actual tile or if that's just a picture of the
I
horsey crab. But do you see a lot of people putting in inlays as well as the
Yeah,
murals?
yeah. I did a couple of jobs down at Ballymead where they just wanted kind of some contemporary seashell things on their backsplash, and they just spaced them, every 3 feet or so. And they used a blue glass tile, as
Mhm.
in, I guess, the ocean water, and the shells were placed in there. And, it's just really cool. It gives people a chance to experience and delve into their artistic side because everyone has one. And,
Right.
it's, I think I saw on NPR or heard on NPR that 60% of people, to have a full lifestyle, if you want to say, need to incorporate music and art into their lives.
Mhm.
And it's nothing to be intimidated by because it's really totally personal.
Right. There is no right or wrong in
Yeah,
designing and picking out things for your living space. You are the one living there, and
yeah.
that's and there. One thing I'd like to point out is there are so many options. There's so much out there. There's so many different colors, sizes, and it can be overwhelming at times. And that's why someone like yourself can really help someone walk them through and help them narrow down their choices and their wants and their needs list. Everyone has things that they want, but we also have things that we're looking to gain at the end of the project, in
Hmm.
which is more of a needs list. And having someone like you walk them through and guide them, because projects can get overwhelming. It's not even just a budget. We all have budgets. I think it's just the choices today. The manufacturers out there are making things easier for installers. They're always trying to improve with their technology, and they're also trying to improve with their product offering and their color availability, the size, everything. There's just so many things out there to think about when you are designing, and it can get overwhelming. And that's why we welcome you to come and talk to one of our specialists, and hopefully you end up with a project and a space that you love to be in.
I'll tell you, I drive my vendor reps crazy. Thank God they love me, but I do a lot of research online and this, that, and the other thing. And I found a tile that hasn't even come out yet, but I know where to get it. It's one of our reps, and he's going to get me some samples of it. It looks like a Carrara marble, but the veins are navy blue. It is
Well,
outrageous, and we will have that shortly.
well, we look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. This is really interesting, Holly. And guess what? I'm going to have white cabinets with some navy accent. And I had been looking at countertops. I had been looking at Portrush, which is Cambria, wildly expensive at the very
Oh,
top of their price range, and their whole line is out of the price range, really. But I was looking at it because it's sort of white with blue and some black running through it. although I am concerned about the repeat, like you mentioned. If, you know, I don't know how I would know if it's right, but I think I should be on the list for the new Carrera marble look with the blue veining you just mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly get you on that list, Steve.
Yeah, let me
and
write
I
your name down and I'll put you on the list.
I'm
It's-
coming to the Cape. I'm in Chicago. I'm coming to the Cape
Oh.
about for 2 weeks, about June 12.
Hopefully
we
I'll
have
have it
sample?
by then. I'm
Good.
going to tell the guy I've got somebody who needs to see it, but I've got color pictures of it. Wait
Okay.
until you see this. You are going to love it.
Okay.
I know exactly the Cambria color that you're speaking of, Eve. And
And
Holly,
so
I'll have you take a look at that in the showroom and you can get an idea.
Yeah,
of what-
good idea.
Rhonda, yesterday I sent my design plan with measurements to Becky.
Oh, great.
Okay, yeah, good.
And I think, but don't quote me on this, I think it's, I'm looking for 60 square feet. I don't have big counters, but I do have, actually I have a setup that's pretty much what you're showing on the screen right now. With
Very
the,
nice.
yeah, with the peninsula. I guess that's, you know, mine would be a peninsula.
Yeah.
So the two questions then are the repeat, either on the portrush or what do you call this other one, Holly?
You know what? I don't even know what the actual name of it is.
Okay. See, I got you working before you wanted to.
Oh, no. I'm telling you, I love it.
And the other thing is, I had been going back and forth about, okay, when you rip up the carpets, the old carpets in the house, you have red oak hardwood under there.
Oh,
And narrow boards. I would really wish that was something else so I could put the LVT through the house, but I'm not going. I'm going to stick with the floor that's there. So now
yeah, definitely.
the only question is, do I put tile floors, porcelain tile floors in the kitchen, or do I put wood? I guess I'll go with the wood from everything you've said, but I'm not so worried about a little spill from the sink as my husband trooping into the house. The back door is the one we use with the dog. And that,
Yes.
I can see me on my knees a lot.
Yes.
Well, that's
we've
why they
got
make
something. We've got a thing called Bona. It's made,
Oh, yeah.
I think it's
I know
made by Mirage, or Mirage Floors recommends it at any rate.
We have it here for our house in Illinois.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's a really good way to clean things up, because we can't lock the door when our husbands are out with the dogs, I guess, right?
That'd be a good solution.
Oops. Oh, I'm sorry, honey. Did I do that?
But also,
That's when a nice area rug comes into play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was thinking that, and I had gone just briefly to a Floor Decor and More here in Illinois. They
Yeah.
sell they don't sell wood. They sell the finished wood that you were talking about. And he made the point that, you know, putting a rug down, I guess I just have to live with this, will change the color over time because of the sun. Oh, well.
Well, it can. I mean, if you're talking about a Brazilian cherry floor,
No,
it'll
I'm talking
come
about
out light red, and when you get, after you've had a rug on it for 2 years, it might be burgundy. But something like, probably your floors are oak.
they're red oak.
Yeah, they're red oak. So the ultraviolet block that's in the stains keeps it pretty true to the original color.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. And I mean, I like the wide floors that look reclaimed, but I also love those traditional little 2 1/4 or 2-inch floors. I did a friend of mine's house in Katuitt with 2-inch maple floors. It was hard to find, but I mean, it's kind of timeless. It's from the original house.
Well, I know that the wood is around because my neighbor has a duplicate house and she just went ahead and put that in. There was something else. What was it? I did see you did have up on one screen some tile that looked really good. Because I was thinking if it would be a tile that would, yeah, there it is, right in the middle, the top. I was thinking, yeah, you know how it looks on the screen. I was thinking, oh, that might be good in there because it has a little look of blue in it, but it's got a lot of sort of gold, which would then blend with the, you know, the flooring, the red oak flooring in the adjacent rooms. Everything
Yep.
you described is exactly what I'm I'm facing. But
And that's a nice little herringbone installation, which is somewhat contemporary, a little more contemporary than just a straight install, but where you're doing something that's mimicking the wood floor as far as scale is concerned, putting it in a different pattern makes it, sometimes if you try to match it but you miss, you missed.
oh, okay,
But
so you're talking about the picture there on the right with the herringbone with the wood floor?
and the one in the middle there that you guys were talking about too.
Okay. Because I also love chevron, or now herringbone is the
Okay,
thing.
yeah, chevron, yep.
And I was thinking of incorporating that on the backsplash.
Okay, yeah,
Just to be able to get some,
Yep.
that pattern. So then if you were me, would you put in the straight oak floor? Would you put in the chevron or herringbone oak floor? Or would you go for a tile like that one?
I would probably put in the straight oak floor.
Okay. All
And
right.
the less you break things up in the cottages, my house is really small, so I try to keep everything as similar as possible from room to room so that you're not, it doesn't jar your attention when you walk from one space to the next because it's so different.
Okay, Holly, you're really just underlining what I should do, because as Rhonda said, there are so many choices. It's
Oh, yeah.
mind-boggling.
Yeah, now that you said that, I'm hoping that my new blue tile that I'm in love with comes in a chevron so that you can have it. But I'll find out.
Well, the Carrara marble look with the blue vein, that would be the countertops, about 60 square feet. Did they tell
Okay,
you?
yeah.
Did they tell you those by square foot price?
They haven't come out with any information yet because they've been so overwhelmed with requests. They're like, leave us alone.
I think my budget is supposed to be $65, and that's a
Oh.
hard budget to per square foot. I think the porch rush is more like 95 or over 100. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah. And then there's the question about whether it would look good with the repeat. And may I ask you another question about the countertops?
Mm-hmm.
You had a picture in there with the maps, and I
Yeah.
noticed that the 4-inch backsplash didn't exist. And I am going to have a slide-in. I'm planning on a slide-in range. But in those pictures with the maps, you don't have any. You don't have any.
Yeah, those are flat.
You're not using the countertop backsplash, the 4-inch backsplash at all.
No.
Yeah, I don't think, Rhonda, what do you think?
No, I can tell there's no it's just the backsplash that goes down directly onto the countertop.
Would they charge me less if they didn't have to come up with a?
Yes.
So, okay.
I don't, you may have missed it, Eve, but we did touch on that. The backsplash is created obviously when they fabricate the countertop. And
I
so
hear you, making your husband a nice dinner, and you can maybe get him to.
Exactly. Okay, girls, that's between us.
Yeah.
But yes, you have the option to do it either way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, for me, are there other people on the call still?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, there are.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't want to take up any more of your time. You gave me a lot of time. So how will
We'll
I
see you when you get out here from the Windy City.
How will I be in touch with you, Holly? Do you want me to call you or send you an email or?
Sure. I'm up in Orleans, and this is my information here.
Can you see it right on the screen, Eve?
Yeah.
At midcapenet.net.
And my direct line now, if you've got a pen,
I do,
is 508-760-4415.
Okay. All right. I'll be in touch with you. And great. Maybe you've got the solutions for me.
Thank you for joining us, Eve, and everyone.
Thank you. This was great. Thank you, Rhonda.
Hope everyone has a
Thank you.
safe and happy Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.